What's going on, people? Welcome back to the match preview, a very special one as we face Brighton at Selhurst Park. The first time we're facing them this season. As always, I'm joined by T and Stan. Stan, you are back. How you been, bro?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to be back.
Stone Island, what, you going to the game?
If only, mate. If only.
But look, we'll be talking about the game and more, but as always, we want to hear from you. So leave down your comments in the comment section down below. And if you do enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and leave a like as well. Gents, arguably one of our biggest games of the season. Brighton. It depends on how you feel about it. Some people are not as fast. Others think it's a massive game. But I'll start off with you, Stan. In terms of importance of this game, how do you rate it?
Well, it's a very important game because we're playing Brighton, so every game against them is important.
Exactly.
It's a very important game. Listen, this game could change the whole context of our season. If we get a win, we will likely go 9 points above Leeds going into Sunday. And that's big, and it could change the whole context of our season. I'm not saying we'd push up the table, but we probably wouldn't be looking over our shoulders for the rest of the season if we get a win, because we'll gradually go and pick up some points. If we don't, it could get a bit sticky. I don't think there's going to be a huge disaster happening either way, but it is a massive game. It's against Brighton, and it's important that we try and get something from it.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm probably the most worried I've been going into a Brighton game. I genuinely can't remember the last time I was this worried. And it's kind of weird because we're not even having an absolutely awful season. I mean, our season so far has been mediocre, but it's been solid. I mean, we're 12th. We're not that far off top 10, and we're not that far off, 15th or 16th as well, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But in terms of how I'm feeling ahead of the game, I'm not too sure about UT. I'm nervous, but then again, we have had results against them, even when we've played absolutely terrible. Remember that game during COVID when we had, two touches in their box, not even shots, 2 touches in their box. And both of them touches led to shots, and we managed to get a result. And we were playing absolutely awful. They don't really beat us. They don't, regardless of how bad we play. So for UT, considering what history has shown that we can always get a result against them and how we've been playing, which hasn't been too bad. I think the Man United performance after the red card was all right. It was a big improvement. Are you optimistic of getting a result? And what type of result are you talking about?
I'm optimistic that we can get a result in the match. There's no doubting how well Brighton has played this season. I think we would be stupid to try and psych ourselves out of the fact that they're not a good club. I mean, to do what they've done across having two managers is actually really impressive. So fair play to them to that. I'm very much of the same ilk as Stan. I don't care how our season's going. I don't care how. Everything changes if you beat them. You know what I mean? Because regardless of how good of a season they have or how bad of a season we have, if you're able to say we didn't lose to Brighton, that goes a long way. I mean, that's what rivalries are all about. So I think that's what's the most awesome part about it, is because it doesn't matter where you are, where the teams are. It's about that particular game at that particular time. You don't lose it. So I think we can get a result because we can set up the right way. I think put out the right team. But then, I think our ability to defend has been really, really good. I think we've had some really, really solid defensive performances the last 3, which I think will make it tough for them. But don't get me wrong. I mean, they got one of the hottest players in the Premier League now in Mitoma. So it's not going to be easy by any means.
It won't be. And we'll talk about Mitoma just a bit later on, but the player that he's going to be facing is kind of scary. I mean, I don't know how we're going to try and hold him as quiet as we can, but we'll see what happens with that. But in terms of actual personnel in this game, do you think it's time now that we see maybe Lokonga start? Because I thought he had a solid performance against United when he came on. He made some forward passes. He looked comfortable on the ball. Of course, they had 10 men. I understand that, but he looked good. He looked decent in midfield. Would you guys want Lokonga to start? Because I would. I would, due to his strengths. His main strengths are being on the ball and making them forward passes. And Brighton will be pressing us. I'm pretty certain of that. So if they press us and we've got someone who can ping out their passes and beat that press, I think he can do us a long way of good.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when you make moves for guys in the winter window, you're not making that move with the intention of slowly bringing these guys in. You don't have the time.
Especially with loans.
Especially with loans.
Yeah, for loans, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what this is about. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm always a proponent of, hey, you play the talent. You play the guys that are the most talented guys on your team, period. And the way that dude is able to retain possession, move the ball, he's so smooth with the ball at his feet. You got to have a guy like that in there. He makes a difference. Whether we're going against 10 men or whether we're going against 11 men, I think it's important to have a guy like him out there on the pitch to alleviate some of the possession responsibilities off of a guy like Decore. So I mean, I don't see a reason why you don't play him.
Yeah. Stan, for you, in terms of personnel, would you make any other changes? We talked about the new players, maybe Mateta. Does he start up front? For me, no. But there's other players in certain positions that could come into the fold, even though we don't have that many options. But Hamada, could he start as like in midfield with Lokonga, which would be quite exciting? Or do you think just keep it as it was with Man United because the result wasn't absolutely terrible? It's just a few mistakes that we made.
I think you got to play Ebbs in some position. And I would look at Lokonga as well. I'm not I agree. If you're coming in on loan, you're coming in to make an instant impact. Yeah. Is it too big a game to bring him in though? You know, big rivalry, big derby. Is the pressure too much? Young lad. I mean, I don't know. Do you need a bit of experience or a bit of bite in there? Will Hughes, can probably offer you that. Or are we going to try and play on the front foot, try and press them and take the game to them? I don't know. They're a different proposition, or they have been the past 18 months now anyway. Yeah. You know what? From left field, what about Klein for Richards? Because I think Richards can play right fullback. He's quick, and I think he might be able to handle Mitoma better than Klein.
That makes sense, but then Hugo's in that centre half. If
Anderson's fit. Yeah, if Anderson is fit.
Yeah, if Anderson's fit, then yeah. Look, even if it ain't Brighton, I want Richards to start right back when Anderson is fit, because we can't just drop him. I'm sorry, you can't just drop him, because I feel like he has the defensive abilities to play right back. Maybe he won't be as useful going forward, but then again, at this current moment of time, if we have Anderson, Gahey, and
he won every aerial duel against Man United.
Richards in the back line, I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that, especially for Richards' defensive efforts. But for you guys, quickly, about tactics, how do you think Vieira should approach this game? Because we haven't really been high pressing. I haven't got the stats up, but based on eye test, we've stopped with the high pressing. We've kind of gone into more of a counter-attacking team, trying to observe the pressure. Against Brighton at home with the fans behind you, do you go back to high pressing 4-3-3, or do you stick with trying to be solid defensively because they're red on form?
I think you've got to try and be solid defensively here. I'm not saying you've got to go Roy Hodgson level defensive, but their midfield is serious. Like you have to take that into account. Like they have their midfield on the wings, and then in the middle you've obviously got what's his name, Moses Caicedo. Who plays next to him? I can't even remember.
They've got Caicedo. They've got some very good players. That's all.
Alexis McAllister. Let's be real. Like their midfield is better than ours, right? So I think you're going to have to go a little bit more defensive. I think pressing them, I think they'll pass you off the field, to be honest with you. But that's my opinion. Yeah,
I agree. Even though it might be a bit frustrating for the fans, I think you have to be kind of sensible, because you don't want to lose this game either. If you get a point, just make sure you don't lose. That's the most important thing. You can't lose against them. But let's look at the league table, as we'll always do in the match preview, and that is pre-game week 22. As we stand right now, we're 12th in the league with 24 points. If we win, we'll still remain 12th, because Aston Villa's created a bit of a gap. There's a 4-point gap there. If we draw, we could potentially go down to 13th, because Leicester won't be able to catch us up. But if we lose, I mean, if we're not, well, if you consider goal difference as well, we could potentially go down to 14th. So, gents, when you're looking at the league table and we're talking about the importance of the game that is against Brighton, even in terms of league table, it's kind of important that we get something out of this game, because you don't want to be slipping down to 13th and 14th and looking at all the other teams catching up to you.
No, I agree. You got to get results. I mean, this is a time of the year where we need to put together points and put together performances. We can't afford to drop 2 in a row. You know what I'm saying? I think in this scant part of the year, one of the main things that we have to avoid is multiple losses. And being that we unfortunately lost that last one to Man United, I think we're in a position where we can't afford to have 2 consecutive game weeks where we're coming out with no points. So I think it's imperative that we get a result from this.
Yeah, that's why I think, look, I don't think we'll get relegated. There might be times where we might go down to 14th or 15th, but I think we've got good enough players to get us results. And we've seen it this season. Our problem this season, the reason why we're 12th right now, is we've been inconsistent. Not that
Extremely.
we've been
very
inconsistent. It's just inconsistent. We can pull out results like we have done in the past. For example, we'll beat West Ham away from home, and then you go and lose to Forest. But then again, you have those games where you can beat the West Hams away from home, or even compete against Man City away from home, where we was 2-0 and then they made a comeback after Haaland came back on. So, it's not an awful, terrible team that we have. But of course, teams are changing up with their managers, so it'll be quite interesting to see what happens as the season unfolds. But in terms of some of the key matchups and what we expect from certain Palace players, for you guys, in order for us to get a result, who do you think needs to perform at the highest levels? I'll start off, especially in attack. I feel like we need to have Eddie with his decision-making be much better, because I don't think we'll create that many chances. But if we do, he needs to be a bit more clinical against Man United.
His decision-making was so poor at Old Trafford. And I thought he worked really hard against United. And I saw him, running here, running there. But there were times, even when he was outside the box, he could have just pulled the trigger and didn't.
Over dribbling at times, I felt.
Elise as well. But I'll be honest, the most important matchup is Mitoma. How do you stop this guy? Very good dribbler. And right now, as it stands, it'll be coming up against Nathaniel Klein. So what do you guys do? Do you think Vieira should potentially put Jordan Ayew out wide instead of Elise to have Nathaniel Klein have that support? Would you be happy with that?
I mean, that's definitely an option. I think what we really need to do is be looking to bracket him, kind of like the way teams defend Wolf, where it's not just the fullback, or you got a fullback with the support of a midfielder with eyes on them from the center back. You know what I'm saying? So I think you got to respect him as a player. You got to respect what he's done so far this season. And I feel like if we're playing a 3-man midfield, then we can afford to make sure that we're having somebody from the midfield make their way over to kind of support Kleiny and then help him out a little bit.
I think you've got a double. You might, like they do on Zaha. Like when Watford used to play us, they used to double team him. They might have to do that. A couple of things. Elise, his last minute decision making is still quite poor. Like we need him to deliver some good balls. We need him to use his head a little bit, because he's obviously very talented, but when he's in that box, he needs to make those decisions better, and you're going to need that in those games. The other thing, he ain't going to start. I hope not anyway. But JP, he's got to win some freaking aerial duels, man. Like,
especially against players that's smaller than him, like that. That Bruno Fernandes chance. I mean, he should have put that. He should have headed that. Bruno Fernandes should not be beating JP for a header, for example. No. And in this game, if he does come on, we need him to be clinical, and that goes with Eddie as well. As I just said, everyone needs to be.
I would say aggressive. I would say aggressive, D, because he's coming up against Lewis Dunk, who wins everything in the air most of the time, right? And he's coming up against he's super aggressive, super on it this season as well. and he's got to be able to match him as well. Like, he doesn't even jump for the ball. I feel like he watches the ball as it sails over his head.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. Like, how does Bruno Fernandes out jump you? But then again, he has scored against Brighton, and you know the funny thing about JP, we can all cuss him for whatever reason, but he does come big in big moments. Like, he scored against Millwall, he scored against Brighton in the past as well. So he has.
I think he needs those dreadlocks, and he needs the braids back though, man. Like the new hairdo ain't doing it.
I feel like the braids just have a bit more power on the header. Maybe it's just the braids that's missing right now. Well, I don't know what it is, but if it ain't the braids, then it's a bit worrying because he ain't really been scoring that many goals. But let's get to the final part of the show, and that's goal predictions. Palace versus Brighton. First time around. Of course, we were meant to face them away from home. That still hasn't been rescheduled. That was postponed. But gents, how are we feeling? They're red on form. But do you think we can get a result? I'll start off with you, Sam.
Listen, I've been a Palace fan for a long time. We've been here a few times where red hot, red on form. You know, Brighton, they're going to batter us. They play beautiful football. And listen, don't get me wrong, they are red hot, red on form, and they play very good football at the moment. But the onus is on them. And I've said this to you earlier. The onus is on them. They haven't beaten us in 3 years. Obviously, we haven't played them in over a year, but they haven't beaten us in 3 years. And like I said, it's on them. This is their time to finally beat us and, you know, show us who's the superior team, etc., etc. Palace is the underdog. Tends to do better than you actually think. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I don't think it's Palace Twitter or like I've had so many people ringing me up, Palace fans this week going, oh, they're going to batter us. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. No, it's not going to happen. Is it going to be a tough game? Yes. Am I confident that we're going to beat them? No. But you know what? My score prediction is going to be 1-0 Palace, and it's going to be Jean-Philippe Mateta, 72 minutes, with the jammiest, most horrific, horrible goal.
I'll take another jammy goal. I'll take it.
Honestly, you could ever concede.
Whatever for a win. But look, I'm going to go for a 1-1. I'll be happy with a draw. Even though
it's probably a better prediction. I'd be delighted with a draw.
The way the
absolutely
going,
delighted.
They're very good. You have to give them respect for that. I'll take a point against them. But we come with a win, draw. There's one thing that's missing. Hopefully you don't say it, but do you think we could get a result, or are you going to go predict for a loss?
I honestly think that the way that this matchup has been for us, I think the way that hopefully is being conveyed to the players, the importance, I think it's going to be in a very ugly game. I'm going to go 0-0.
0-0. So we've got 2 draws and a win as well.
I'll take it.
Based on that, I think we'll be pretty happy for the post-match show if them results happen. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are you optimistic as well? And if you ain't, let us know your score prediction as well and your thoughts ahead of the game. That's it from me, T, and Stan. We will be back talking about that game and more. So make sure to keep tuned in to Back of the Nest. And until next time, up the Palace.